Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially live for what I'm calling the mention market Supercycle. I'm really excited for today. I mean, today is our last slow day in mentions, and even today we had a few big mentions that I didn't go live for. They're kind of lower liquidity, a little more unique. You know, you had TPPN, had the Jensen Huang speech. Didn't play any of those. I was too busy in the weeds on all these earnings calls. Let me get this post out, and then let me get my chat in here. Mention market Supercycle confirmed. You are absolutely right, Ops in the chat. Guys, we have 11 earnings calls this week. Okay, I guess now down to what, 10? Because we had PayPal this morning. Again, I didn't play PayPal, wasn't in my tool, but we have 10 earnings calls. Tomorrow there's 5. So tomorrow we have Google, Meta, Microsoft, Chipotle, Starbucks. So just absolutely stacked day tomorrow. And then who could miss the biggest of all, which I'm going to start with, the most legendary mention, probably up there with one of my favorites to ever play. Of course, we have Powell, FOMC speech tomorrow. Made a post. I'm going to be on the roll-up tomorrow watching the FOMC speech live. This is such a legendary mention market. Happens almost every month. It's always fun. There's always uncertainties. We are pretty loaded as well for this FOMC speech in terms of our plays. For those that have watched the streams earlier this week, you probably are aware Trump and Z handshake duration. Wow. I was not even aware of this market. Let me pull this one up. This is an interesting one. We have to throw something on this. You're asking no to Powell saying pandemic. You would naturally think that makes sense because you might say, hey, it's been years since, the pandemic. But Powell almost always brings up the pandemic. I mean, just even seeing this at 70, I would put in bids for pandemic, yes. I would not be taking no here. And at 70%, it is kind of interesting. So I would not take, to answer your question, I would not take pandemic no. If anything, I would take pandemic yes. He always brings up pandemic. So, man, do I take pandemic yes. There's going to come a time where he's going to stop having to bring up pandemic. I don't know if we're there yet. Every time it feels like we are. That's why that strike always trades close to 70. But I don't think we're anywhere close to entering to where pandemic no is going to be worth it. But what I do want to highlight, my 2 big plays tomorrow for the Powell speech are projection no and median no. I'm trying to size up to about 2,000 shares each. If you can get these in the 60s, that's kind of what my preference would be. There's risk with any of these, but if you look just at historical frequency, that's around where they're priced at. I don't think Powell is going to focus as much on projections this speech, which is why I'm feeling good taking the no's. Similar rationale with median. I don't think he's going to focus on as much. This is priced around where the historical frequency is, so I feel pretty good taking some of these no shares, and I see a lot of value there. So I am sizing up pretty big as well. I'm going about 2,000 shares on each, so I will have about $3,000 probably on the FOMC speech. 2,000 shares is going to be my cutoff. I don't want to size too big. I can handle like a few grand loss. You got to be able to handle variance. But the other play that I am looking at closely is Trump no. I'm trying to accumulate shares here at 85 cents. And, well, my limit order came down, so I'll put that back up. I would love to get, 1,000 shares here. If I can, on Powell not saying no. I think there is an extreme low likelihood of Powell saying no. And, the only reason that this is trading even where it is that Powell happened to say Trump 2 meetings ago. So, there is a ton of value in shorting him mentioning Trump. He kind of finds, even if, reporters directly ask him about Trump, which they will, he finds a way to skirt around it. So, I'm sizing up to do 1,000 shares, but I would go as high as like 3,000 shares here if I could get in. Maybe I will try to do that, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to go too big, but yeah, okay, I'll stick with 1,000 shares, whatever. But maybe I'll try to size up. What's going on, Semper? Yeah, I'll just leave this as I'm not even editing the limit. But yeah, I really like no Trump. The only risk here is that given the shutdown, maybe there's some world where he says Trump. Do I think it's reasonable? Do I think it's rational? No. I don't think it's going to increase the probability to the point that I would be, afraid of this. So yeah, to summarize, guys, I'm taking big positions on no projection, no median, and no Trump. I may end up playing Pandemic, yes. And I also want to look more into Pardon. Obviously, this was a really fun play last time. It made a lot of sense given the speech. The difference is that why wouldn't you bet on something like Trump saying by November it's like 100% free money? No, why wouldn't you bet on something like Trump saying? I don't know. That's. Can you clarify, Nandan? But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna look more into Pardon to see if there's value here. Obviously, I love taking Pardon. It's a very fun strike because you're kind of just playing on Powell to cough or sneeze. But if it's gonna make value, I think the reason I liked it a lot last time was it was priced closer to 10 cents at a certain point. And his last speech was much more of a long, drawn-out speech. The way these FOMC speeches, right? He gives an intro for a few minutes, and then it's a lot of just questions from reporters. So the fact that there's all these breaks kind of lowers the likelihood that he's going to cough versus if he's giving like a long, drawn-out speech where there's a higher likelihood that, you don't have any time to like pause in between questions to cough. So, I think the probability in FOMC speech of him coughing is much lower than the probability of his other speeches. But again, I have not looked deep into the data on the past FOMC speeches, and it's something I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to be up late looking at these. But very, very excited for the Powell speech tomorrow. That's where I'm sized largest. I do think what I might do tonight is look into playing on the 25 bips bonds here. If you can get in at 98 cents on 25 bips cut, I think there's value there. You can kind of see, for those that have been tracking my portfolio, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but one of my big goals has been to start bonding more. And what I mean by that is, I trade with, potentially on the larger size of a portfolio. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have larger portfolios than even me, but I'm sure a lot of people are just trading with a couple $100. But I tend to have a lot of idle cash, so I'm trying very hard to put idle cash to use. I have been bonding more. I think there is value in quote unquote bonding a 25 bips cut tomorrow because that's It's pretty much guaranteed at this point that it's going to be a 25 bips cut. So, not financial advice. Do what you want, but I think if you can get in specifically at 98, because 99 you're kind of pushing it a bit, it's something I'd watch. Before going into some of these earnings calls, I want to touch, because I was just talking about bonding, and I want to touch on some of the bonds I've put into, which are kind of interesting. What is Carr saying? Oh, they're saying 6 to 10 second handshake. I got to look into that one, ops, and look at the historical handshake times, how long those are. Could be value there. It's probably a pretty inefficient market. But, okay, so if you're looking at my portfolio, you can see I have a lot less cash than I normally do because I've been putting my cash to work. So the first bond I want to talk about is an obvious one. I entered this position today. We are Mamdani, yes, holders. Like I said, I live in New York. I know this can be a polarizing election for a lot of people. No, I appreciate it, Ops. That's a great idea, is that handshake market. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I think Mamdani, for those that aren't aware, even though it looks like he's been at like 100% this whole time, he did dip recently a little bit. So he was closer to like 90, 92, 93 historically, but he has dipped back down to about 87. I got in 5,000 shares at 87 through a limit order. It's a mayoral race, which is going to be a lot less efficient when it comes to polling, things like that, than a presidential race. But I feel pretty confident that Mamdani, yes, is kind of close to a bond at this point. But maybe this is a bad decision on my part because I'm not very politically inclined in terms of like knowing bottoms up the probabilities of some of these elections. Hopefully Cuomo doesn't start swinging closer to 30 cents, but a poll came out showing that Cuomo had cut the race kind of by 10 points, showing him closer. Doesn't seem like Curtis Sliwa has any chance of dropping out. And, Mamdani historically has kind of been overperforming his polls. Kind of see this as a lock. So I am parking 5K shares at 87. Based on, you look at like Benjamin, I trust a lot for his political stuff. He was talking about this being at a bond, probably closer to like a 96 cent valuation. So, I'm parking about $5,000 here. And, at 87, I accumulated these shares through a limit order, right? I'm paying no fees. That'll be a return of about $650 by hopefully, next week. I mean, I think these aren't officially resolved, by the way, until like maybe December when they're officially like sworn in. I don't know the exact date, but once he wins, you can kind of exit at 99 hopefully. So maybe I'll do that now. Actually, I'll just, so I don't forget, set a sell order at 99. Can I just do no expiration? Yeah, good till cancel, 99. That way I'll just be able to get out immediately when it's kind of over. But I like Mamdani as a bond. Let's talk about some other bonds that I am picking up. So EA, again, I've covered EA a lot, so won't harp on this too much, but, and there's been a lot of talk about the last couple days. We actually talked about this on stream a little over 2 weeks ago. EA is not having an earnings call. They got acquired. They're being taken private. Because of that, it is near certain that they're not having an earnings call tomorrow, which is when it was scheduled, or was it scheduled today? I think it was 28th, but it's extremely unlikely they would have a futures earnings call by Q1, which is when this market resolves. Market resolves March 31st. So we were able to get, I mean, just look at how incredible this was. We were able to get almost 7,000 shares for $5,360. So that means we're getting pretty close to risk-free $1,500 profit here, because there's not going to be an earnings call. Again, do I feel great about this? It's like, no, I'm sorry for anyone who bought yes, maybe thinking there was an earnings call, but this is all public information. It was readily available. Kalshi even added this disclaimer at the bottom. So there was no doubt, if the earnings call does not occur, all strikes will resolve to no. And I mean, you still have people this is, these comments are they were so clear about it. These are just people trying to kind of, make the market resolve off a transcript or of the it was very clear how this market was. But again, I don't feel great ever getting these. It's not because at the end of the day, people filling these are just misunderstanding or hoping to, overturn some rules. But yeah, it's based off a video earnings call. I don't see how this resolves yes on any strikes. But again, your funds are locked up till the end of March, unless you sell out at a high 95, 90. But I mean, I have a lot of idle cash, so makes a lot of sense to me. Close to a risk-free $1,500 that we had here. We will take it. Here's all my college football futures. I mean, I'm actually somehow up here just because of Ole Miss. But again, I don't see how Ole Miss is 4 cents. Not going to harp on that. So that was bond number one. So I talked about Mamdani. I talked about EA. A lot of funds locked up here. Another one I'll talk about briefly, because again, I did cover this a little bit earlier, but this is the top artist on Spotify. We have 5,000 shares locked up on Bad Bunny. This market is pretty close to being resolved. It's extremely difficult for Taylor Swift to come back. And I mean, the only reason, I got in at 86 cents, the only reason I was even able to get in that cheap is just because, you're going to assume naturally that Taylor Swift will be number one this year because of who she is, because of her new album. But, if you look into the actual details, it's not exactly true given, Bad Bunny released his album earlier in the year and he's just completely dominated. So this one I view again similarly in as a bond where it's nearly guaranteed. So we did park $5,000 into here at 86. But again, I don't think this will resolve until I believe November. This market's interesting because it resolves a little early. I think right around when they do Spotify Wrapped. But, gonna park some funds here for that return. Every dollar adds up. Yeah, people are gonna be debating always short the comments, honestly. Just always short the comments. People will comment the most schizo ramblings ever, but it is what it is. Just don't ever get convinced by comments. I would recommend just not even looking in ideas section unless you want to have a fun time. So we talked about Bad Bunny, talked about Mamdani. Here's a really interesting one. For those of you who know the lore behind my account, I used to be a pretty big AI trader, but when I say AI trader, I mean trading on what would be the top AI models. Gemini 2.5 Pro has been sort of the number one AI model for a very long time, going back to, I believe, March, maybe, right at the end of March, so March 29th or so. Gemini 2.5 Pro debuted, and since then it's gone on an absolute run. But now we have an interesting new AI market. So I will admit I'm a little misinformed on this market. Think it's worth throwing $100 on no change for rate cuts. historically zero cuts when it's. I disagree. I think it's legitimately guaranteed it's 25 rate cut. Like the Fed will not. I mean, it's very fun to do that because it's like you're gonna get 100x or something, but the Fed does not like surprises. So it is completely priced in that it's a 25 bips cut. I mean, you can look, guys, if we look at the options market, okay? So let's look at CME Fed Watch. So this is a bigger market than Kalshi and, any prediction market, because this is looking at options prices. It's like legitimately guaranteed it's a 25 bips cut. And this is like a, billions of dollars in options pricing. The Fed would never go against if the Fed wanted to pivot to no rate cut or a 50 bips cut, they would signal a lot earlier that they're thinking about a 25 or 50 bips cut. Powell is very careful with his words. He would not go into this speech tomorrow with the market thinking it's going to be a 25 bips cut and do 0 or 50 bips. It's a basically guaranteed thing now that it's going to be 25 bips. So I would advise against anything outside of just bonding 25 bips, and I probably will. I'll probably throw, like I said, I only have 10 grand available right now, and I am trying to accumulate some more shares on the earnings calls. So I'm not going to bond this whole 10K on a 25 bips cut, but, if at the end of tonight or tomorrow morning I have 5K available, then I'll throw it on a 25 bips cut for a 1 or 2% return. So I have a new market here. I talked about it. I used to be an AI model trader a little bit on I think, let's see, not to flex a little bit here, but I'm nowhere to be seen on the all-time leaderboard. Look at me, just 57. This small, tiny. I'm not even anywhere close to making it on there. Give it time, we'll be in there. What's up, Gusta? But if we filter this leaderboard for tech and science, Orange unhit his leaderboard, but there was a time we were number 1 on tech and science just because we traded the AI model markets. Used to trade these heavily. He made about 20K on those. This guy Orange, though, I don't know who he is, but completely topped me on tech and science. I wonder what he trades. But, okay. Alpha Arena, Season 1, winning model. I don't know what Orange 4 is X. What's up, Copy Trade God? But this is a new market. Holy cow, dude. DeepSeek. Oh, everybody basically tanked. But they basically gave each AI model, and sorry, there's no dark mode for this, so it's going to be all bright white. I know, we do need to get back to AI trading. They basically gave each AI model $10,000 to trade crypto. So you can see here, this is a pretty funny experiment. You have all the different LLMs here. You have GPT-5, you have Grok 4, Qwen 3, Gemini 2.5 Pro, DeepSeek, Claude. So there's, 6 models competing against each other. They each started with 10 grand. And they're seeing, who's going to win the competition. The competition ends November 3rd. You can see what all their positions are. GPT-5, for example, has XRP, Doge, BTC, Solana, BNB, 10x, 50, various leverage. And there's just under a week left in this competition to see where they'll land. What is this? Gemini 2.5 Pro is doing terrible. Who else is with it down there? That's GPT-5. So Gemini and GPT-5 are both doing terrible. Then you have Grok, Claude, and then who's this third one there? But anyways, in the lead is Alibaba's model for Qwen 3, and then DeepSeek, of course. So both the Chinese models are number one right now. But basically, this ends on the 3rd, and they have a market for who's going to win. You can see DeepSeek and Qwen 3 are pretty far in the lead right now. So maybe this is stupid, but based on researching this, the more safe and American the model, the worse it trades. Probably true, honestly. But based on researching this, I think on Kalshi, DeepSeek and Qwen 3's odds to win appear to be kind of undervalued. So we did enter this at an average price of about 79 or 80 cents. It's since moved up to 87 cents, so it's moved favorably for me. But I view this again as somewhat of another bond. The only fear I have here is I am going a little over my head. This is something new that they've done, this whole race of like giving each model 10K. So we'll see what actually happens. Like, my main fear of where I could lose this trade is if the models are self-aware of what their ranking are and they get all game theory optimal towards the end. So like if you're in last place, you throw 1000x leverage on some crazy low market cap meme coin, and like maybe you can run up in the final seconds. You know what I mean? I don't know. I assume they have limits on like which tickers of crypto they can trade, and maybe by market cap. But that's my only fear, to where like if you get towards the end, there's a couple days left, the models are aware that they're behind. Maybe they're going to start doing some crazy leverage, crazy non-diversified trades to try to get back in the lead, and maybe you see a lot more volatility towards the end of it. So I'm holding these for now, but I need to research this more. Some models much more conservative. Crypto tanks, and DeepSeek has a 50x leverage position open. It can nuke itself. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. So I don't know how good I feel about these bonds. I need to research them more to feel more confident. But that's, I think, the last bond that I'll cover that I'm currently holding. So, right, we have Mamdani. We have the EA earnings market. We have we have Bad Bunny. And then we have the Alpha Arena seasons. If I had to rank those on BTC is not volatile. If I had to rank those on how much I like each of them, I would say EA number 1. Probably Taylor Swift number 2, 3 Mamdani, and 4 the AI competition. You got a new bond? What's your new bond, Foster? I only have 10K left. I was going to park this all. I mean, first I'm trying to accumulate earnings call positions, and then if I couldn't fill those, I was going to park this into the 25 bips cut for like a free 1 day 1 to 2% return. Yeah, we need to play some Bad Bunny. I should start playing Bad Bunny on all my streams just to keep all the streams up. All right, so what do I want to get into next? So next, obviously, we're entering the golden age of earnings calls, okay? We have 5 earnings calls tomorrow. And, I started early on this earnings research. If you watch my earlier streams, I was researching these back on Sunday, because I knew it's going to be 10 earnings calls in 2 days. If I try to hammer this all in one, I'm not going to have time. So we looked at earnings very closely. I looked at it again to kind of double check the assumptions that I had on these markets. I'm going to have a really long post on all my positions. Oh, Gusta's saying there's a bond on the league market. Foster, if you're still here, what Gusta's talking about, we had talked about the other day on the league market. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about it. But anyways, on earnings, I'll start with Google. All of these, again, guys, these earnings calls are tomorrow. So if you're trying to get positions, you got to get on them ASAP. You can see, if I look at Google earnings right now, I have an unrealized gain of $270. So going back to getting in early on mentions, Like, this is a prime example, guys. So where is most of this coming from? I got in on acquisition yes at 69 cents. It has since moved up to 81 cents. So this was an extremely good buy. Again, I covered this on stream before we even got in. We got in very cheap. The market has corrected closer to 80 cents, which is probably a more accurate price. Regulator holding kind of steady. And then the big one is No. Again, I got in at 64, covered this on stream. It's since corrected closer to 80, about 84 right now if we were to market buy. What's going on, Mango Lassie? We haven't talked in forever. Awesome to have you guys join. If you guys don't know, Mango Lassie's in the chat. He is like an OG. I talked with him like a year ago. Knows his stuff, really sharp. Great guy. But yeah, so on the Google earnings call, these are my plays, right? No whiz. But again, I'm getting in at pretty great prices. I got in at 64. Would I market buy at 84, guys? No, I would not. So if you are going to tail these, again, I don't recommend just blindly tailing anyone's plays. I would recommend doing the research on transcripts, things like that. But these are what I like. Wiz, no. Privacy, no. Regulator, no. Profitability, no. And then I love acquisition, yes. I think acquisition, yes, was undervalued because people think of this as something that is used to describe like M&A activities, but Google frequently uses this to just talk about like general, user acquisition costs. Yeah, let's definitely catch up, Mango. So I like acquisition a lot on these Google calls. But yeah, these are our plays for Google. You guys playing anything else? If you're playing the Google earnings call that you guys like, that maybe I should look at? I'm curious. Foster, are you playing earnings? No, Foster's not playing earnings. See, everybody thinks Foster's the mention market god, but is he even entering these positions? He's not playing earnings? Come on. You like no regs, though? Okay. All right, before going on to Meta earnings, Gusta's in the chat. If you guys watched yesterday, Gusta came on. He's a former Grandmaster League of Legends player. I'm personally a former Emerald 1, not on that level of Grandmaster, but we did play a World's Futures position here. And it's really because I want to be able to sweat Worlds. I want to have a team to root for. We are playing the number one team from China. We're playing anyone's Legends. Gen G all the way up to 70% to win Worlds. People are super hyped on Gen G, but Gen G can 100% choke. Any top Korean team that is not T1, they can choke. So I love shorting Gen G at these prices. Granted, they look incredible. They look incredible almost every year, So if you're going to take anyone, it's like anyone's Legend or T1. I think they have a shot. Wow. New lore just dropped. Foster's first ever prediction market trade was T1 futures. Very interesting because they were down to like 9%. Because that's what I was telling Gusta yesterday, because he doesn't like T1 this year, but it's like every year, even if you don't like them, they're just a different team in Worlds. But let's talk about Meta earnings tomorrow. By the way, just a quick reminder. So these earnings, they start tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time with Starbucks. 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Chipotle. Then same time, Meta. Then 5:30 p.m. you have Google and Microsoft. Obviously, Powell is at 2 p.m. I'll be on Roll Up tomorrow watching Powell FOMC speech tomorrow with the Roll Up team. It's going to be a lot of fun. But right after that, when I finish, we're going to jump into an earnings call stream till 6:30. So we're going to be locked in on mentions tomorrow. Wow, almost Foster's 1-year anniversary on Kalshi. Great. All right, let's look at Meta. Let's lock in. Guys, I don't have a ton of positions on Meta, so Let's keep the penny jumping to a minimum here when we go through my resting orders. I didn't like a ton on Meta. I'm playing 5 positions, really playing a lot of like closer to bonds. I like hiring, yes, based on the historical frequencies. So I do have a limit out at 78 for 1,000 shares. My sizing for all these position guys is 1,000 shares, regardless of price. Maybe that's even on the smaller side than what I should be doing, but trying to size up a little bit more. So we'll see if we can get in at 78. Gustavo, you like Hyperion. I don't think I've looked closely at that strike. Let me pull it up right now. I'm curious what the frequencies are of Hyperion. All people care about is data centers. Yeah, that's not a bad angle. But like, I don't know. At 80 cents? They've literally only ever said Hyperion once last time, because I think that's when they were announcing the build out of the data center. You're probably right. They're probably going to talk about how the build's going like crazy now, but I don't know. There's not enough data to me, so I'm not playing it. But I like hiring, yes. Like if I can get this at 78 cents, that would be freaking amazing. I don't think I will. I like VR, no. I have limits set at 37. We'll see what I actually fill. I am trying to get into algorithm no as well. And channel no at 62 cents I'm trying to get into. And then China, surprisingly, yes. I'm trying to get into China, yes. There are some available at 39 cents. Let me double check into like China. Also got Oakley. I was actually almost going to be on Oakley no, but I guess it makes a ton of sense if you just see, because Foster was actually convincing me to go to yes on it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like China. They didn't mention it in the last earnings call, but like before that, it was just like a sweep of like China mentioned. So the main question is if I can't get in at 31, do I eat the shares at 39? Maybe I will. But I'll keep my bid up. But yeah, those are my plays for Meta. Again, for earnings calls, I talk about it in my guides on mentions and stuff like that it's a blend of transcripts, so historical kind of quantitative research of word frequencies, and it's a blend of vibes. I will say, of any mention markets, earnings calls are way, way heavier. What's up, Logan? On transcripts than they are vibes. So I think if you had to assign a probability, it's like 80% transcripts, 20% vibes. Although I will say, like, vibes definitely come in. Like Hyperion's a great example, right? If you look at historical transcripts, they've only said Hyperion once for Meta last time, because that's, I think, when they were building out the data center first, but it's trading close to 84 cents. Well, they only had just started. I had to change my X name, so going to Logan, big vibes guy. Yeah. But Hyperion's a perfect example of like where vibes come in, because if you're just looking at historical transcripts, you'd be like, why the hell is this at 80 cents? It's only been said in the last earnings call once, but I mean, how are they not going to bring out this giant data center? So maybe 85 cents is probably undervalued. I mean, I'm not going to play this strike because I don't know enough about Meta and how pivotal that is, but I will say I think these are more so, data mining than vibes. Okay, Logan, if you're in the chat, I'm curious. Do you have any, I mean, I know you're not a big politics guy, but like, are you bonding Mamdani right now? Because he's down to like 87. And I started loading up some bonds. Yeah? Okay. See? It's good to hear. We're on the side of the sharps. It's always a good sign. All right, so the next earnings call, we just covered Google and Meta. I want to cover Microsoft. Microsoft again is tomorrow. All of these that I'm covering today are tomorrow. So for Microsoft, you know, I think I'm more so positioned just on bonds here. Like, yeah, I like OpenAI, yes. I also like LinkedIn, yes. You know, I love Microsoft 365, yes. Honestly, well, I guess I'll keep the bid at 94. I love Teams, yes. Like, to me, all of these strikes that I'm trying to get into at like 92, 93, these should be 99%. So, I will gladly throw $1,000 on each of these strikes if I can get in, you know, at 93, 92. The one longer shot I had here was taking, oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm getting penny jumped. Let me check to make sure I still like this strike if I got jumped here. I mean, it's a good sign to get jumped like that with a big order because it probably means like another kind of sharper player is on it. But let's see if I'm still going to like this at 74. I just want to make sure. Cybersecurity. Wow. Somebody just like bonded that. All right, I'll keep it at 7. Somebody ate some of these shares, but yeah, I mean, I like the no here. Where was my chat? Oh, not bonding Mamdani. Well, you should bond Mamdani. Oh, you guys are trying to get in cybersecurity no for like a week. I'm sorry. I covered this a couple days ago. What are you using other than backtest the data? Do you have your own API model? For earnings calls, I'm just looking at historical frequencies. So, I mean, I have a tool that I use that just has all of the transcripts going back to like 2020 for all of these public company earnings. So I blend that in with it, and it'll account for like all the unique phrasings for Kalshi mentions of like plurals, things like that. But I'm not building my own like grounds up model to say like necessarily like assign my own probability. I mean, theoretically I could if I'm looking at historical stuff, but yeah. I mean, I really shouldn't ever be talking about my positions when I have resting orders open because it's kind of stupid. But I couldn't get filled anyways, and I wanted to do content covering all these. Cause I did a ton of research, but you know, because now I'll probably get no fills in cybersecurity. But you know, Logan in chat is saying he should be bonding Mamdani, but it feels weird bonding a commie to win the mayor of the capitalism headquarters of the world. I mean, there's a emotional part to it, then there's a, you know, just straight up part to it of like profiting. If you're saying that because it's a bad trade, you know, you're gonna make me scared a little bit. You know, I entered this bond today feeling good. I was going based off of Benjamin's new video where he was ranking all the top political bonds, which I thought was like so funny. I love that content. If you guys haven't seen it, let me see if I can pull it up. Here it is. Let me go to my... Here, let me go to my X. I want to see if I can find... Never mind. I'll pull it up later. I couldn't... Okay, all the smart people you know are bonding it. That's a good sign. But yeah, Benjamin on Twitter had a whole post on all the top bonds that I thought was like pretty funny, where he's ranking all the political bonds. I just think when Mamdani dropped close to like 85, it was just too enticing to me. Like, I wasn't going to bond him at 93, but, you know. All right, we covered Microsoft. Let's pivot now to Chipotle. Again, this is one I think I have a ton of resting orders up, so you know, go easy on the penny jumping if anyone's getting in here. But here's where I like, yeah, I mean, I don't even have any fills in Chipotle. I have like 6 shares of supply chain. Wow. But so bonding D66 yes for Netherlands Parliament? Let me see. Oh, this is not. All right, we're going on a quick tangent. 5-cent bond? You mean at 95? I didn't cover the Netherlands one at all. That's why I just want to see what's going on. Can I filter for Netherlands? Just absolute great search tool. Which parties will gain seats? All right, let's see. Who will win the Dutch? Oh, it's just the top one. D66 yes? In this one, the who will win Dutch general election? This is at like 37 cents. This is far from bond territory. But you like D66 yes? Interesting. Man, I could never study a general election or a foreign election and just like, I don't know. I can't learn fast enough. But all right, let's talk about Chipotle. Not a bond, but like, no, I know. I love the bond term. I use it for everything. But maybe I'll play it. Maybe you heard that here first, guys, from Logan, that he likes D66 yes at 37. Pretty good liquidity available. For Chipotle, trying to get into supply chain yes at 90 cents if I could. Already somebody in at 90. I like honey chicken yes if I can get in at like 81. Doubt I'll get any fills. And then I like automation no at 69 cents. Have a limit order out. You have some on wage inflation. Wage inflation, yes. Let me look at that. I'm curious. Let's see. Wage inflation for Chipotle. You want to eat Chipotle now? Says Russian man in the chat. I could go for some Chipotle. Yeah, I do like wage inflation. If you can get this close to like 80, you know, I mean, they have been saying it pretty frequently in some of like the past speeches. So it definitely makes sense there. Yeah, I like wage inflation. It's weird. They went through this period where they like barely ever said it, but I guess. And it looks like at least the last few meetings, it hasn't only been one mention, which makes me feel a little better about taking these bond ones. Like, carne asada, yes, in at 75. I mean, that's a great price. It's moved favorably for you. But let's see. Is carne asada... I know they just launched carne asada, right? I only know that because I used to go to Chipotle like every day. Wow. Interesting. Carne asada has not hit in the last 2 meetings. So, it's definitely a little bit of risk there. But, like, oh, they relaunched after last earnings? Okay, I think that makes sense. That's definitely good play then. Like, going back to, like, mixing transcripts and vibes, like, given they relaunched after last earnings, you know, it's like, if somebody's just looking at the transcripts like me, I'd be like, oh, maybe I'd take no's there or whatever. So you can find things mispriced. Because if they really relaunched it after last earnings, it's like this should probably be closer to 90 cents. And it's still in that range of like, 80 to 90. Should I get a bid up on carne asada? I don't know. There's already a bid in at 80, but I'll think about it. Okay, so that's Chipotle. Again, I don't really have much size on Chipotle anyways. Like, I'm just waiting on a ton of limit orders. You do have to kind of size in with limit orders for some of these earnings calls. There will be a little bit of spread. Let's talk about Starbucks. Do I have good positions on Starbucks? Okay, look, I at least got some fills on Starbucks. Some fills. 3 Markets is hyped on the carne asada. That will be a fun. You guys see they just launched parlays. I don't bet sports, but kind of wild. The correct term is combo. How dare you? I'm just kidding. But yeah, they I actually tested them out a couple weeks ago where I was being the taker on some of the, combos, parlays, whatever. And it was a lot of fun trying to be the taker on, parlays and like trying to price them out. I had vibe coded like a terrible script. Fusco was saying I just kind of traced back when they released Honey Chicken and they mentioned it on the earnings call right after. So similar thinking with carne asada. Is there any risk to them not saying Honey Chicken now though? Because like I didn't do enough research into like when they released Honey Chicken, and let me just I'm gonna go back to the transcripts again. What are we thinking on Honey Chicken? No, I'm keeping Honey Chicken up. They didn't take it away, right? I mean, yeah, Honey Chicken order stays up. That one's too on fire lately. Starbucks. So, some interesting strikes here. Oh, if you search Honey Chicken on the people complaining. First one I'm going to say that I really, really like, probably my favorite strike here, is protein. I had some limits out at 78 cents, but like I'm already getting, you can see I still have the limit order out there. I kind of got jumped here, like didn't fill up enough. Just trying to get closer to 1,000 shares, but protein to me is like a 95-cent strike. There's almost no world they don't say protein. If you don't know the background, Starbucks got a new CEO. Actually, like one of the most legendary CEOs for these types of companies. He was formerly at Yum Brands for Taco Bell. Then he moved on to Chipotle, actually, which we were just covering. And now he's moved on to Starbucks. Brian Niccol. So he's legendary CEO. I mean, they're paying this guy exorbitant amounts for a good reason. But he is pushing this new protein cold foam drink at Starbucks, trying to move in with like the new health craze that was of last few years ago where everybody's a lot more health conscious. Probably makes sense. It's kind of cool that they have that at Starbucks. I used to be a daily Starbucks user, which is terrible for your bank account. Oh, he made you bank at Chipotle? Yeah, CMG was a runner. I got to get back into trading stocks. I mean, I totally shouldn't. By the way, I don't advise anyone ever trade stocks, but I never did because one blend was like I'm a big efficient market hypothesis person where like all my holdings are in index funds. And that's why I love prediction markets because they're actually inefficient. So like you can legitimately profit on them versus like the stock market, maybe in the short run you can, but you're going to deal with, variance, whatever. But I could never trade because I would have to pre-clear all my trades. I work for a public company, and it's like such a pain because then you have to hold them for a certain amount of time if you want to sell them. But like now I could probably open up a Robinhood account. Yeah, I mean I can, and then just trade like options if I wanted to. Do not advise. I will not probably do that myself, but it'd be fun to like park a few grand in a few companies I like nothing big, but just for fun, get into researching stocks more. Yeah, no, Logan, I feel the exact same way. It's like it's impossible to beat the market over the long run. I mean, maybe there's some truth to like if you trade very low market cap companies where, you know, traditional hedge funds, things like that, it's not going to make sense for them to like invest all the time pricing it. But we're going on another tangent, guys. We got to focus on Starbucks earnings. Protein, again, this is what I feel like is kind of a lock. I'm sitting at 78. We'll see. I think this is like a 95. Holiday, I also really like. I got jumped again here. Only got 67 shares. But Holiday, like if you look at historical transcripts, given this is like in the run-up to holiday season, I want to say it's like, wow, actually, why did I like holiday so much? Interesting. Oh, I'm looking at Chipotle. I'm an idiot. I was like so confused at why I was buying because I was looking at the transcripts. I just spooked myself. Yeah, I mean, I love holiday. They say this even when it's not holiday season, and now it's holiday season. Like, this is a bond. This is like a 90 plus. This is like a 90, 97, 98 strike. Same thing with protein, you know, but people are going to let you buy it at like 86, 87. Sell all your stocks and put it in prediction markets. Yeah. I did sell some stocks actually to get into. I sold like 22K of stock. This was like back in like January, and I added it to my prediction market portfolio because I was just like, I need to run this up. Where do you find? Sorry, I was just sneezing, but you can find these earnings calls online. They're publicly available. There's a ton of companies that will like transcribe these. What I personally do though is I pay for a service that compiles all these for me so I can be lazy, but it's kind of costly. It's like $200 a month. Thank you, DJ Non-Chain. So if you're trying to get these transcripts, there is like a new service, Mention Matrix, that's going hard on Twitter right now. I have never used it, so everyone else in the chat comment on if it's actually good or not for transcripts, but I think that's a free service. What if new CEO hits you with the Christmas season? We can say that again because woke us over at America's hottest country used to be a dead country. I love that line. Hottest Yes has been printing on all these Trump speeches. Even when he's in freaking Asia, he finds a way to squeeze in hottest. Comparable sales, I like the no here. I like the no here if you can get in sub 30 cents. Let me refresh a little bit. You know, there's some fear that, you know, Brian Nickel loves the word comparable sales, whatnot, you know. You know what? I'm going to up my order. Nobody's allowed to penny jump. No penny jumping. I'm in at 29. You can only go behind me. You're not allowed to go at 30, guys. That is illegal. And I guess I like pumpkin spice. No, this is the one I got filled on. I feel like pumpkin spice is a funny strike that like people are gonna want to just buy yes because it's pumpkin spice. Like, what did was that Gustavo that just said that? For Starbucks, I like pumpkin spice. That was almost purely just vibe. See, that's what I'm going off of, buying pumpkin spice. No, you know, getting in at 38 cents here. What does pumpkin spice look like for Starbucks? Huh. Yeah, I definitely, I don't know. I definitely like, but guys, again, I got in at 38 cents. Get in at whatever price you like, but I do like pumpkin spice. No. And I didn't play any of these other ones. But look, our unrealized ROI is looking pretty good on these earnings calls. We'll see what happens finally. But guys, we're into a new week. I honestly have been like super focused on content, so I haven't been trading that much the last few days, but I was doing a ton of research for earnings and everything. Damn, this ballerina cappuccino. This guy is a freaking beast. This goes private frequently, so I'm gonna save this. Let's save this while this is public. This is like a absolute Kalshi goat right here. Look at this guy, 2.1 million profit on 116 million in volume. So like that profit ratio of like just around 2% is insane at the level of volume he does. I wonder, yeah, Domer doesn't show volume, so, but yeah, that freaking ballerina guy is like a monster. But look at this, we're at 57.6. And what were we at starting the week, huh? 56.4. So we're already up 1,200, 2 days into the new week. Yeah, I've actually talked, Logan, to Ballerina a ton in Discord. He's such a cool guy. I really, really like him. Maybe eventually he'll come on the show. But really cool guy. But yeah, guys, we're up 1,200 to start the week already. Mostly just on like unrealized gains and stuff. And look, that's the best part about bonding, I don't have to be doing research for every mention. I can just be lazy and just hang out and just let my bonds appreciate. I think most of my gains this week are just on EA kind of pumping, but like, look, we'll take it. But I'll have to hold these until the end of March, I guess. Look, I know. I withdrew some sizable money, but I should park some. I should put some more money back in there. But I withdrew money because I just moved to New York, so that was like, I don't know. We're gonna probably end up spending like $20K in like new costs because you gotta get the flights, movers. We just got a new apartment. By the way, my new apartment, $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month. What? That is insane. And it's a tiny 2-bedroom. New York is crazy. What the hell? It's like a 500 square foot 2-bed. But we're gonna make it work, guys. We're gonna run up the port. But yeah, and the wedding's a lot of money. So I had to withdraw some money, but maybe we're gonna put some idle cash back in here. So we'll get a bigger portfolio. Then I can start bonding more. I honestly should. I have idle stuff. But have just let all my credit cards carry a balance since my ROI. You're running up credit card. Man, you really are a Degens of Kalshi right there. That's exactly true, Jeff. That's what makes you grind. I got to do what Degens of Kalshi, what Logan's talking about. Run up credit cards. Hit the grind. That's what we got to be doing. But look, that's most of my plays for tomorrow. I mean, I'm sitting on a ton of resting orders open. This is just for my mom. She wants me to throw $50 on Texas A&M. They always are calling me to do sports plays. They're like, I'll Venmo you, don't worry. Yeah, I never get the Venmo. And then, we got Chipotle, we got EA. I got my mom, Donnie. So, I mean, I'm just keeping these EA ones up. If people want to fill this, I don't think any of these will ever fill, so I'll take them down, honestly. They're never going to fill. Yeah, we're sitting on our last Chipotle, earnings ones. I'll make sure I pull these tomorrow. And then our last Powell mentions and Starbucks mentions. Dude, I got to move to Georgia. Okay, you probably want to stay anonymous where exactly, but like, if you're outside, like Atlanta, like Roswell, I have some family there. Georgia is such a nice place. You would not, I'm not talking smack on Georgia, but you wouldn't initially think Georgia's as nice as it is. But like, Georgia is very nice. I would love to live there. I actually grew up in South Florida, so very close to Georgia. Only issue with living in Georgia is they have a terrible college football team, so sorry about that. Tough. Tough having such a bad college football team. Gets stomped on by Ole Miss every year, but, you know, it's what it is. They actually beat Ole Miss this year. But, guys, lock in for tomorrow. We have 5 earnings calls. We have the Powell speech. That's 6 mentions. I mean, I didn't even cover the other ones. There's probably some Trump speech. I've been so not on top of Trump speeches because of all these earnings, but that already happened. I didn't watch the Satya Nadella one. When is this one? Like, can Trump please come back from Asia? Why are all these earnings at like 3 a.m.? What neighborhood in NYC? So I'm in a hotel room in FiDi right now that I've been in since we moved here last week. But I will be in Williamsburg. That's where our new apartment is. So I'm going to move in Thursday. So I'll probably be pretty AWOL Thursday, moving in our stuff. We got the keys officially Sunday. And then all of our moving pods are going to arrive Thursday. And that's where, guys, we're going to be building out a sick studio. Oh, you love being in Soho? Yeah, Soho's really fun, too. I've spent some time there. I mean, that's like one of the only other places I know. I know FiDi, I know Soho, I know Brooklyn, like Williamsburg. But, like, those are the 3 places I've been. We definitely wanted to stay in Williamsburg. Super fun area. And then yeah, I'm gonna have an actual like room that I can kind of make a studio. Because again, I am literally in a tiny hotel room. I'm on the hotel table right now. This is my phone right there that I just have on a little. So, and then I got this what is this piece of garbage rainbow mic? I mean, the audio quality is actually decent. But I've been in a freaking hotel room for 16 hours a day the last few weeks. I gotta get outside. I gotta be in Brooklyn. And then I'm going to have a balcony, so I'll be able to record videos on a balcony. It's going to be legendary. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Lock in for tomorrow's earnings calls. Tune in tomorrow. I will be on the roll-up show watching FOMC with all of them tomorrow, playing the mentions. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, I'm going to do all the earnings calls live. They start at 4:15 EST. They should end around 6:30 p.m. EST, I believe. Let me just check my calendar. Yes. So we're going to start with Starbucks. We're going to end with Google and Microsoft. Thanks for watching, guys.